Hello everyone, welcome to the match preview show. Toulouse versus Liverpool tomorrow night, 6:15.
Yes, correct.
6:15 kickoff. 6:45, everybody. Make sure you hear that because you don't want to be turning up at 8 o'clock, do you, for a game that's already kicked off and Liverpool will be in the lead off because you'll have missed the goals. It's never a good thing. I'm joined by Dan John and by John Machin for this one. It's been ages since I've done a match preview show.
I was going to ask you, is this your first?
This season.
I think it might be,
yeah. It feels a bit strange, to be honest with you. I might not have done one since it was the Uncensored Match build-up show.
That was kind of where I was going. Since the show has changed title, I don't think I've ever seen you on one, to be honest.
I've done it. I really don't. I'm only here to sell Christmas jumpers. And as it turns out, I'm not a great model. You want a thin guy in a jumper to make you look good, but it's black and it's slimming, so yeah, you know what? It is what it is. Redmenmerch.com. We're here to talk about Toulouse versus Liverpool anyway. Press conference hasn't been yet, so we've got no clip. Assuming we still play a clip in this show.
We do, yeah, correct.
Get in. So we got no clip because the press conference is tonight. Loads of things to talk about though. But bubbling under the surface at the moment, Dan, is a bit of a general wondering about the fitness of Ryan Gravenberch. Mm-hmm. And we're hearing conflicting reports that he was in training and that he's got a really, really bad injury.
Yeah, from one end of the spectrum to the other, really, isn't it? There's no middle ground there, or hopefully.
Unless he got injured in training.
Yeah, maybe, perhaps. Yeah, that's it. That is the middle ground, I guess. Yeah, straight away when the live training was broadcast earlier on social media, everyone, including myself, watched it, and I couldn't spot Ryan Gravenberch personally. And there was a lot of sort of people on Twitter and on social media saying, I can't see him, where is he? And then a few people found pictures of him and said, oh, he's okay, he's there, he's fine. They're in the same gear and all that. So everyone kind of went, including myself, went, all right, he's there. Kind of left it at that. And now, 5 hours later or whatever it is, people are like, hang on, he might not have been there. And there might be a reason he wasn't there, which is worrying, to say the least.
It's so gutting for him, isn't it, John? Because we were talking just off camera there. It feels like he's starting to find his feet.
Yeah, I mean, he's starting to look like a really, really good prospect for our future, isn't he? And that's the only saving grace for me, is that, as I said off camera, I think he's still developing into the side. I don't think he's established in the same way that McAllister and Szoboszlai are now established. You know, I still think he's seen as someone who's got to learn a bit more about the role to become a starter every week. So it's less of a problem in that respect. But obviously you want to see him play because that's how he will develop. Yeah.
That's it, isn't it? And I think, my thing with Ryan Gravenberch at the moment is I can see the potential, I can see the touch and all that. Apart from maybe the Luton game, I actually don't think he's really put 90 minutes together. He starts the game really well, kind of fades out. Yeah. And yet at Luton, he was probably one of our strongest players, at least in the second half.
No, I think he was, yeah. I think probably him and Virgil van Dijk came out of that performance with probably the most credit, really, because it was a little bit meek for large parts, but I thought Gravenberch was lively throughout. And it's interesting that he literally hasn't put 90 minutes together in terms of being on the pitch for 90 minutes, more or less, since he came to Liverpool. And also, you're right, he's kind of flitted in and out of games in terms of his performance. He's had flashy moments and you think, wow, he's brilliant. And then he's gone missing a little bit. And I still wonder whether that's sort of the backlash, if you like, from last season, where his season was just so stop-start. He never got up and running once at Bayern Munich. He started 3 games in the Bundesliga, and when he was getting dropped into games, he was at a position, it was for 5-10 minutes here and there. He never, ever managed to get into any sort of rhythm. So I still think he and Liverpool are feeling the effects of that a little bit. But on the point, I've got no doubt, I've been really impressed with him, honestly. I think he's got that X factor. I think he's just got that little bit of special, even probably more so than Szoboszlai. And Szoboszlai has been absolutely outstanding. But I think Gravenberch has just got that little wow moment whereby no one can stop what he's doing. Like, Szoboszlai is brilliant, but I think Gravenberch has just got that little bit extra to go, how did he do that? Yeah. You know what I mean?
It's almost, it reminds you of the Thiago thing, doesn't it? When he goes past the man with the same trick over and over, except he's 30 yards closer to goal, and somehow he goes back to goal and then he's past him, and you're like, what?
And he's bigger and probably quicker than Thiago as well. So honestly, I've been amazed by him, and if he has got a bad injury, it's a big, big blow.
But it's okay. We got Kurt Jones then.
Well, do we? Because I don't think we do. Obviously missed the game at the weekend, wasn't involved in the squad. Missed training on Friday, which kind of gave us the heads up that he might not be involved at Luton. Missed training today, Chris.
It's not great. It's not when you're looking to probably rotate your squad, is it, John? And I suppose actually get your thoughts on that first and foremost. How do you think Jurgen's going to approach this?
I'd have thought the midfield picked itself for this game. but it doesn't anymore. That's the problem. And it's that one position. You know, I think Endo and Harvey Elliott are almost nailed on to play in midfield, and you're just looking at who's going to play with them. And I personally thought it would be Curtis, you know, after his 3-game ban and coming back. You know, it would be a shoe-in for that position. But if he's carrying a knock, and with a game on Sunday, they won't risk him. But who do you play in that role if you're not playing Gravenberch, you're not playing Thiago, you're not playing Bichetti? Who are you playing? You know, unless obviously Szoboszlai gets another game.
I hope that doesn't happen, John, to be honest, the Szoboszlai thing. I wrote my team down before I did a show for Redmen Plus on the deep dive yesterday, and I did it as Endo, Elliott and Kurt Jones as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've got McAllister in my team.
Really?
Because you can't play on Sunday.
Yeah, but Endo hasn't played games, so I'm fully on board with Endo at 60 minutes off, rested for Sunday, because he's just not started enough games for me. So I want him playing, I want him used to it. I mean, when was the last time he actually had a performance?
And I've got Endo in the side as well.
Oh, as well?
Yeah, so I've got Endo, Elliott, McAllister.
Okay.
McAllister in his natural position.
The Jones Gravenberch stuff, as I wrote this yesterday, makes sense. You just throw McAllister in there. Keep Endo in his position. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The alternative is, I suppose, Dan, he could put Gakpo. But then who are you starting up front?
That's the other one. I had Gakpo in my team in my head as being part of the front three, of course, but you're right, he could drop him into the 8s. He's done that quite a lot. He did that first game of the season at Chelsea, and he's done it here and there, obviously the back end of last season as well. He's okay in there. I don't love him in there, and I actually think him being in the 8 started sort of the slow start of the season that Gakpo's had. That was kind of not at fault for it, but it was one of the reasons he hasn't really got up and running yet, really, Cody Gakpo. The injury, playing out of position a little bit, so I'd like to avoid that if we possibly can, but obviously the injuries now might mean we have to do something a little bit different. But like I say, for me, I will be going. I take your point about Endo needing probably some rest, probably an hour's football. Maybe you've got a McConnell on the bench. If the game's wrapped up after the hour, you get Endo off, get McConnell on. But I think with McAllister not being available on Sunday, it's a no-brainer to get him in his natural position, and it also lets us see him in his natural position.
That's it. No, that's interesting. I've not even considered that, John.
No, I hadn't either. Just getting old, just say can't.
I haven't got that excuse.
Can't manipulate all the possibilities. So, I mean, again, I think it's partly because McAllister hasn't had the greatest of times. You know, I think he's doing okay, but there are some fans out there who've been on his back a lot for not really being a very good number 6, which I think is probably a bit unfair. So it may well be great to see him in his natural position, but might frustrate the hell out of him if he plays well and then has to go back to being a number 6.
Well, yeah, that's definitely
the other part of that is if he's not playing on Sunday, then who's playing as the number 6? And the obvious one would be Endo. So do you risk him in this game, or do you give him more time in his legs before Sunday?
I'd definitely be giving him some time to play in his position. I want to see him warmed up into it and stuff like that. And, you know, for me, it's an opportunity for Endo, isn't it, Dan, to stake a claim. And you know what? If Dan's right, and it's Endo and McAllister, and Gravenberch and Jones are both injured, it's time for McAllister to... I'd be having a word with Endo and going, this is me and you fighting for our rightful positions in this squad. We've been fighting with each other for one. Let's fight for both together.
Yeah, absolutely. I've made point a couple of times now on our podcast on a Monday about having specialists in specialist roles and stuff like that, and both of them should be looking at this tomorrow night, if indeed it is what I think it might well be now in terms of team selection. And I should say, let's put in a proper shift, a proper performance here, and then when our next game comes around whereby we're both available, probably going to be Man City game, Klopp won't really have a choice but to pick them both. It very rightfully should be. And I think more so for Endo, because McAllister obviously had an amount of football now, and we know what he can do. He's Premier League proven and stuff like that. Certainly is his 8, which is where he likes to be. But with Endo, I think games like tomorrow and indeed on Sunday when he's likely to play against Brentford, massive opportunity for him, because he's been brought in to, whether you think he's a stopgap, whether you brought him in to fill a void, whatever it is, he's been brought in as a specialist defensive midfielder, and he's currently not been playing as one.
I think that might be your phone, John.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I'll give it away.
That was them ringing in with the results of the the test that
Gravenberch to scan. Yeah, what's the news?
How's it going on?
News.
Bad news, oh great. Okay, well, let's move on to have a quick look at Group E then, in the Champions League, the Europa League, Blumminach. We obviously played 3-1-3 right now. We beat Toulouse 5-1 at Anfield, didn't we? Yeah. You can see they're on 4 points along with Union Saint-Gilloise. Lask, obviously, at the bottom with 0 points. Liverpool can't quite wrap up first place in the group today. Because Union Saint-Gilloise could quite easily beat Lask. That would put them on 7 points. Liverpool would be on 12 points. But you'd guess, and I don't think anyone's worrying here. I suppose it goes back to the overriding thing, John, is Jürgen didn't rest at Bournemouth as much as probably most fans would have liked. Obviously, we saw Salah and Szoboszlai start. Where are you with where you think Jürgen is, and what would you do in terms of rotation?
I think he's been getting his spot on for the most part. I mean, and in this competition in particular, you know, he's given all those lads a good run out against decent opposition. And they've done, I mean, they started off really awful, didn't they, in that first game? Yeah. They were terrible in the first half, and then they just sort of grew into the game. And I think that's what's happened with a lot of them. They've all developed as they've gone along. So I think the rotation's been fine. And the thing about Bournemouth, because you didn't know what the hell was going to go happen there, did you? Because of the conditions. So, you know, maybe he thought it was better to have some experience on the pitch than not. I mean, I pretty much think the team, you know, will be similar to what we've seen in the UEFA Cup all season, or the Europa League, as they call it now.
Well, they had Chambers starting at left back in the home game against them.
I don't think they'll do that this time round, personally. Tsimikas, yeah.
And then we had Doak starting the very first game of the Europa League on the right wing for Salah, didn't we? Mm-hmm. Dan, would you be tempted to see a little bit more Ben Doak?
Yeah, I'm always tempted to see a little bit more Ben Doak. I think he's brilliant, I do. Honestly, I think he's such a hot prospect. The only thing is, he's back in training now. He's part of the matchday squad, obviously, at Luton on the weekend, so he's clearly available again after his little injury. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think we'll definitely see some Ben Doak tomorrow night. I could pretty much put a decent amount of money on that, to be honest. It's whether you see him for an hour at the start and then you go Salah like we did in Austria, and you mentioned there we weren't very good for a while in Lask. We went 1-0 down in that game, obviously. So I think Jurgen Klopp has seen that game and seen the fact we had to come from behind and we had to improve as the game went on, and he's taken that as a little bit of a lesson learned, and he's going a little bit stronger from the start, i.e. the likes of Salah, Szoboszlai in the Cup, etc., trying to get games wrapped up and then making his changes and then bringing on the likes of Ben Doak. So I think we will see him, but I would be just about inclined to go Salah from the start, with the idea that you get the game done and dusted 2-0 by the hour, 70-minute mark, whatever it is, and then you go Ben Doak, etc.
Okay, so we started that away game with Bajcetic, but other than that, it was a really strong squad side. It was Bajcetic right back, Canate, Van Dijk, Tsimikas, Elliott with Endo in the centre, Gravenberch, Doak on the right, Nunes through the middle, and Luis Diaz on the left. And the reason I ended it with Luis Diaz is, what are you doing with him at the moment, John? Because
I'd play him.
Nice.
I would. I think the guy needs it. I think, you know, he needs to get his mind, you know, on other things than the horrors that are going on off the pitch. And, you know, coming on and scoring a goal the other day, I mean, it can't have done him any harm at all. So, yeah, he's made himself available, so I'd be playing him. And not just that, of course, because if Gakpo does end up in midfield for any reason, then we are going to be light up front anyway. You know, so you're going to have to make choices about who of our regulars actually gets to play. And, you know, obviously Salah plays a lot of those games. Nunez, obviously, as you said before, he's played in the team in the past. But if Gakpo drops out, they may well not want to take a chance with all of them. You know, they might want to put in Doak on the right. Who knows, you know. And certainly I would play Diaz from the off, and I'd play him with Gakpo and Salah up front if Gakpo is able to play up front rather than deeper.
So where are you with your defenders? I think Kelleher in goal, obviously.
I would go with Gomez, Matip, Quansah and Tsimikas.
Yeah, Dan, where are you with your team, mate?
Similar, and it's something that Klopp hasn't done yet in these cup competitions with all the rotation he has. He has never gone with two youngsters at the back, i.e. Chambers and Quansah. I would like to see him do that tomorrow. I think we've seen a little bit of Toulouse and the threat they pose, or lack thereof. They're in a bad run at the minute. They haven't won in like 6 games. They got beat at the weekend. They got beat at the weekend by Le Havre, who were newly promoted to Liga. So they're not exactly on fire. So I would be tempted to go, just because of Tsimikas and Robertson situation. Obviously, we know we haven't got Robertson. We can't risk Tsimikas too much, in my opinion. So I'd be tempted to go Chambers and Quansah with Matip and Joe Gomez.
I did consider that, but I ultimately fell with the same back four as John.
Yeah.
I thought Quansah with Tsimikas, Matip and Joe Gomez, ahead of Kelleher, obviously. I went Endo, Elliott, Jones yesterday. That's obviously a doubt. I actually did put Ben Doak in with Gakpo in me 9. I went Jota on the left-hand side. Because the reason why, and it's a small thing, I just wanted Diaz in front of, us in England, you know what I mean, rather than an away game and stuff like that. That's what I was thinking. But then it was an away game at the weekend he comes into and scores, doesn't he? So I've got no doubts whatever he when he picks Diaz, he'll be available and ready.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that their current league form is going to play any part in this game at all. I just think that they're going to be up for it. I thought they were a bit more sprightly than I imagined they would be in Anfield. They could have gone to 3-2 just after half-time, couldn't they? When they decided to do target practice on Trent instead of scoring. So I think there might be a bit of a handful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Are there any players, Dan, from a Liverpool point of view that we've maybe only seen in glimpses? Obviously, we've mentioned Doak, you've mentioned Chambers. Who was the lad who came on for Chambers at left back?
Callum Scanlon.
Yeah. Do you think there's a chance for another player of that ilk to get involved here?
Yeah, there is. It definitely is.
Was it because it's away you're thinking no?
More that, and it would kind of be one or the other. It's got to be a Chambers or a Scanlon, because they both predominantly play left back. Saying that, having watched Callum Scanlon play at left wing for 21s on Saturday just gone, he is a very attacking. You mentioned speed. He's a very attacking left back, like crazily attacking, which is why I think they prefer Chambers. Certainly when Trent's playing, because Chambers can do the inverted stuff on the other side. He can fit in as a left-sided centre-back as well. He does that a lot for the academy side. So I think Chambers is just about ahead in the pecking order. But in terms of other youngsters, I think I mentioned McConnell earlier. He's one who's been in and around the squad a lot in pre-season. I think he might travel tomorrow because of the defensive midfielder situation we've got going on with Endo and McAllister and stuff. Scanlon might well be there, and we could see him. The other one who we're missing, really, from the Europa League and indeed the Carabao Cup is Bobby Clark. It's a shame that he's not been available for a while, because he would have featured quite prominently in these games, but unfortunately he's been sidelined for a few weeks now.
So, John, comes time. Score predictions, my friend.
Ooh, actually, I hadn't thought about it. I actually think we'll win, and I think we'll win quite comfortably in the end, after maybe a few scares, but I think probably 3-1.
3-1, okay. Dan?
Yeah, I fancy us tomorrow night. I just think we're just a bit too powerful for this group in terms of the squad and what we've got at our disposal. So yeah, I was going to say likewise, but I'll go for an even more comfortable night than that, and I'll say 3-0.
Okay. I'm going to go Liverpool don't play their best. Liverpool do win, but it's a boring 2-0 victory, and that everyone will just forget about. I think people will just be like, that was a shocking game of football on a Thursday.
We've just had one of them, not another one, please.
It's just the way we do it, isn't it? I mean,
Going about our business, you could call it.
You could.
Yeah.
You could. I'll frame it like that on the night, but I will also want to poke my eyes out when I'm watching this type of a game. I think that's what it's going to be like. I don't know why. I just feel like we always seem to just make it hard work for ourselves, don't we? So there you go. That has been the match preview, John. Dan, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, of course. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to Redmen TV, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank you so very, very much for checking out the video. If you enjoyed it, drop a like. The season is now well underway. If you need extra Redmen content, be it podcast, videos, documentaries, interviews, and general shows, fill your boots on redmenplus.com today.